Thank you to my panel today, which is Garry, Mary and Heather. And today we're going to think about disappointment. Now, maybe you have ordered that lovely big fat pizza that's going to come to your door and you're really looking forward to it. And you see the van drive up and the man getting out of the van and you're thinking, oh, yummy, my pizza. I'm looking forward to this. And suddenly he says, you did order chicken and chips, didn't you? And you're a bit disappointed. So we may think we know what disappointment is, but do we? So Heather, what is disappointment?
That is such a classic illustration. Do you know what? I would have been happy with chicken and chips myself.
I prefer the pizza.
However, I just think it's funny that we're talking about disappointment, because disappointment to me is probably one of the least severe human emotions that we feel. It's right, for me, it's right down on the bottom of the rung of the ladder, because but disappointment leads to dismay and despair and all the other major emotions that we feel. So I think it's really important to talk about disappointment. Okay, so what is disappointment? Okay, it isn't having pizza, it's having chicken and chips. Sorry, I find that so funny. But going back, disappointment to me is unrealized expectation, which goes back to the pizza illustration. You thought you're having pizza, be having chicken and chips. Your expectation of people, plans for your life, expectations that you've got for your future, all of those things. We all have expectations. And when they're not fulfilled, or if something comes and interrupts those expectations, that, I believe, is when we get disappointed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that, totally. Would the rest of the panel agree with what Heather has said?
Absolutely.
Yeah, depends how big the disappointment is. Other ones you can just, shrug off. But it could be a major disappointment. As Heather says, could lead down a path of other emotions that you need to, bring to God and really deal with.
Yeah,
because if you get, pizza, getting chicken instead of pizzas, okay. But it could be something major, decision in your life, a job or a career or something not turning up, not getting money. It could be, depends the severity of the disappointment, how we would deal with it. It can be quite mild. Like I support Scotland and I'm used to disappointment with the result of football, I can deal with that now. I'm expecting that, but something unexpected that can just take you away, and you've got to watch you don't go down that path of letting your emotions take over and get anxiety and get a bit depressed about it, and
I agree, Garry. I think we've got to realise that disappointment is very multi-leveled.
Yeah,
there's minor disappointments that happen every single day.
Yes.
And then there's huge disappointments that can be life-changing. It can be, can you say when you have a marriage breakup that you're disappointed? I think it's a very mild word, but you're still disappointed in, you can be disappointed in yourself. You can be disappointed with other people. You can be disappointed in a myriad of things. And I would say that everyone experiences disappointment on a regular basis.
Because it's funny, because I thought, this is going to be easy. Typical me. I thought, this is going to be an easy subject, because it's only unrealistic expectations. And me being a pessimist by nature, I thought, well, I don't expect much anyway, so I don't get disappointed. And then I thought, how much of a sense of humour God has, because he kind of arranged this disappointment for me. I'd booked a holiday with my son in Portsmouth, and I'd booked it in advance, so it was all set. And then a few days later, the rail strike happened exactly on that day. So there's a minor disappointment, I'd say, but it was enough to really make me think, yes, I am capable of being angry and through disappointment. When my son got sick, I was grieved through disappointment because there was lots of prayer over him. This was like 7 years ago. And like Heather says, it leads to bigger emotions and it can really destroy your life. So what can start as a very tiny thing can end up massively breaking your walls down because you've let it get that far. But I think as Christians, we can become stronger through disappointment, because if we run to him, and he often uses disappointment to grow us, to make us go deeper, I think. And sometimes when when disappointments happen, something better is coming around the corner, something else is coming. So I think we always have to trust him, but sometimes it takes a lot of time. I thought I would never speak to God again when my son died. I really, you know, as a Christian who I thought I would never lose my faith, I was really on dodgy ground. I was really walking a tightrope then. And that was a disappointment in that the prayers weren't answered the way I expected. So that started as disappointment, but ended up as a great chasm that was opening to swallow me up. But fortunately, God was there and he got hold of me, and I'm stronger now than I was then.
Yeah,
And
that's,
you know,
I'm so sorry to hear that.
yeah.
Oh no, I only
sorry.
mention it because it fits this subject completely, because what started, I expected more things. He was so brave, his attitude was good, but he was the one of mine that was brought up in church but never actually was a conventional Christian. So he was the one I was most concerned about. He was the one that I couldn't bear to think of getting sick and dying. The other two, I know where they'll go. I didn't know with Jamie. So that started as a disappointment. Oh, why aren't you healing him? Why aren't you saving him? Why aren't you, you know, it was that kind of disappointment that led to grief. I don't mean to go so tragic here, but it's relevant to this because disappointments can be small, but as Garry says, they can be huge.
Yeah. It's like a cheerful heart is good medicine.
Yes.
But
Sometimes.
the opposite of that is it zaps. You know, if you get a broken spirit through the disappointment, it saps all your strength, could dry your bones. You know, it causes so many. That's the different levels.
Yes.
Above all, guard your heart. It's learning to guard your heart. That's a hard one. You know.
Yeah.
I would
but it takes time, doesn't it? He restores in time, but it took a good time for me to
Understand.
Yeah, it would take time, and Jesus is the healer of those situations in such desperate measures, shall we say. And sometimes I think we don't always understand, but the Bible does talk about God's ways being higher than our ways, and we don't understand why. We don't understand, and I don't know if we will always understand unless the Lord shows us as well. So Mary, how do we surf that wave of disappointment and stay on top?
Really hammer it out with Jesus. You know, go spend time with him. If you run away from him, you're going to go deeper and deeper into a chasm. If it's a big thing, if it's a small thing, then go and sort it out. You know, realize that there are bigger things and that there may be another plan. And no, we don't understand him, but we can read the book of Job. We can understand that things happen in life that are beyond our understanding, because there is a spiritual war going on outside of all of this. We're only on one dimension on this planet, and we only see through our five senses. If we've got the Holy Spirit, we can also see through that as well. But yeah, I think just running to him rather than running away would be my answer.
Mary, when your son passed away, she was quite young.
37.
Yeah. 30.
How old was he?
37.
Yeah, 37. I mean, that's
It was
relatively
horrible,
young.
too.
Yeah. how did the Lord help you then through that disappointment? Because there could be people watching today who have lost a child. What would you say to them to help them today get through this tragic situation?
Well, don't expect to recover straight away.
Right.
Don't be afraid to be yourself with God, because he knows and he understands what you're feeling. And whatever, you know, however angry you are, however broken you are, take it to him, because he understands, and he would gradually pour that oil in to heal you. And just don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to grieve. Don't think he's going to turn away because you're swearing at him or something, because, you know, when bad things happen, the bad side of us comes out. We're not, well, we all know we're not perfect. So, and God understands that more than anything. He's not surprised by anything we say or do. And I think his patience and his gentleness through all my grief and torment and shouting at him and not knowing what was going on and why didn't you answer the prayers and all of those things, which he could have struck me with a bolt of lightning, you know, perfectly right to do so. He can't be wrong. My middle son says all the time, you know, there's one thing we know about God: he can't be wrong. He can't be wrong. In him is light and there's no darkness at all. So you have to trust that. And I had to trust that God is good all the time. The circumstances were pretty awful, but he's good all the time. And it's that, knowing his character, turning to him, that's what got me through. He got me through by his grace.
Okay, so that's trust coming out there as well, trusting in the Lord in that situation. Heather, what is your thoughts?
Well, coming from Australia, surfing is a good analogy, because if you watch the surfers, some get absolutely dumped, and they call it, I think it's a whiteout, or, you know, and you can actually get really, really dumped by disappointment. You really can. And like Mary was saying, you know, it can absolutely floor you. You can be winded. I guess the idea with surfing the wave of disappointment is, okay, so the wave's coming, ride it out. Ride it out. Go with what is happening in your life. And it's like Mary said, when you walk with the Lord and he is your focus and you trust him, then he will bring you through. Now, it doesn't mean to say you're going to stay on that wave the whole time. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that says, you know, if the righteous fall 7 times, or however many times they fall, the Lord will pick him up. And Mary, I've said a few things to God as well in the devastation of having my son desperately ill for 17 years. And in bed, not able to talk or walk.
And as a mother, wow, yeah.
So sometimes I can't even speak.
No, that is really difficult.
And that's why I think disappointment sometimes is too light a word to use for some situations. Devastation perhaps would be better.
It would.
Because sometimes we live on the edge of devastation as Christians. What brings us through? It's the knowledge of the love of God and his faithfulness. Whatever.
Yeah. I
mean, I've got notes here that I could go on and talk forever, but your story has touched my heart and I understand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Heather.
Jeannie, you might have to give me a moment.
Let's give Heather a moment here, shall we?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I just know what that's like, and this is an ongoing situation. So this is very painful.
Now, these are real life situations that we're talking about, and these are very painful situations that we are talking about too. So it's totally understandable. It's a bit upsetting today. Garry, have you got any thoughts that you want to add to what Heather and Mary have
Yeah, well, there's been
shared?
many devastating things in my life, like getting married again and it not lasting at all, ending up without a house, just from CDs, books, and just other incredible things from the past and that had happened. And just totally devastated, just out of it emotionally, couldn't function in that. And what I learned you do is, you know, that regardless of circumstance, I'm still learning how to do this, that I can't let life speak louder than truth. And it's so hard to do that. But the reality, the truth is that God will never, ever, ever leave us or ever forsake us or loosen his grip upon us or abandon us. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And it's really, you know, screaming out and saying, Lord, where are you? But saying, Lord, I thank you that truth never changes. And I'm not there yet, but I want to have that intimate relationship with God, that his relationship with me and my love for him, regardless of what's going on, not that I don't feel it, but that truth doesn't, you know, that what's going on in life doesn't control me.
Right.
I want to walk with God intimately, and I'm learning that, you know, because sometimes when I grew up in the church, it almost felt like Christianity was a, you know, a survival kit to just get by, like, please keep me in prayer. And oh, the traffic light went to, I prayed and the traffic light went to green. And I'm thinking, oh, God does do small things like that, but it's like, so it's went red for somebody. And it's like, oh, I just got paid off. Why was that? And, you know, and it's, these things are always going to happen. Jesus says, I give you peace, but not as the world gives you peace. Life's still life, but it's to learn to not let life speak louder than words. Let the truth, and have that such an intimate relationship with God, because he'll never fail us. And it's so hard to do with what's happened with Heather and Mary and myself.
Yes.
But it's bringing that back, and I still find it hard to do it, to say, right, Lord, I don't feel like this, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling this. What's going on, Lord? And start complaining and say, Lord, forgive me for complaining. I don't want to be ungrateful. I'm so grateful. Regardless, you will never, ever, ever loosen your grip on me or ever abandon me, because I keep always getting this sense, even of dreams of abandonment. I don't know, I'm still looking for the root. And I could get anxious for the weirdest things out the blue. Things could set me off, and I could just get panic attacks and tight ribs, and it could be something small. And I don't want to, you know, got COVID. People say it's happened with COVID, but I don't want to look too much into that. It seems anxiety levels have went up. And it's trying to keep my relationship with God focused, that it's a total intimate relationship. It's not just quoting scriptures, but it's, you know, speaking to God at night and just all during the day, because you realise that nobody owes you anything. And all the emotions we grew up were from Adam. And we were needing love. When we say to somebody, I love you, what you're saying is, do you love me? And I'm trying to die to self so that we don't need love, we become love. We become love, you know, that, and love counts no offence, no wrong. But I'm still struggling with that, but I want to walk in the truth. But what, not just wholly, but with an intimate relationship with God, to listen to him and to shine for him.
Yeah. Garry,
You know?
I thought you raised a good point there, where you said you don't want the situation to control you, because if it did control you, would you feel it would just get really out of control, really out of hand?
Yes, and it would just bring anxiety, then you lose your appetite, then you get depressed, and you know, and it's trying to bring everything back to truth.
Yeah.
To say who God is, that he will never fail me.
Yeah, it's real to say that you're having your, say, wobbly moments, but how, even in that, how does God help you personally?
I just, when I stick in here and read the word, but it's mostly just speaking to him normally, not like a big holy prayer or anything, just then you'll read me bit by bit, and some people speak to me, and you know he's speaking to you through them, and it's bit by bit. And I believe God's builds your character, because I remember Johnny Barr saying years ago, gifting without character equals chaos.
Yes.
People can, the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. But look at all these musicians, like, you know, who got the gift in Freddie Mercury and that, they couldn't handle the character. And I think God does let us go through stuff to build our character so that we can hold the calling he's put in us. He's put the Christ in us, the hope of glory, so that we can shine when we walk into places. People will feel his presence, even when we're feeling our circumstances aren't good.
You've put your finger on it there, Garry. That's character.
Yeah.
I think when you're knocked sideways, like Heather obviously has been, and you know, something like that, when something more important than your own life knocks you sideways, I think that's when he starts to build character, isn't it? That's when he starts to build you. So it's a paradox, because we think it's going to destroy us, and in actual fact, no, God doesn't destroy us through it.
No.
I think he does. What? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mary, but one thing I think he does also, like Lynn and I have been reading about the children of Israel, you know, after they were released by Pharaoh from Egypt, and God did that amazing miracle and opened up the Red Sea. You know, it didn't take them long to whinge and complain and be miserable and accuse Moses and accuse God and everyone in range, to accuse them of being, you know, oh, how come did God bring us out here in the desert to die, when they were on their way to the promised land? And the interesting thing was, Len and I were reading about the children of Israel in the desert of Sin. I'm not sure if that name is there for a reason, but anyway, yes. There was no water. There was no water. And they gave Moses heaps. But then, you know, I said to Len, well, actually, when you're thirsty and when you don't have anything to drink, that is a fairly realistic expectation of something that you need. So they weren't grumbling and complaining just for no reason at all. They were going to die if God didn't give them water. Anyway, they carried on, and Moses went to God, and God just said, take your staff, go to the rock that I'll show you. And through the set of circumstances, God literally opened up a rushing, mighty river from that rock to feed all of those thousands of children of Israel that didn't have water to drink. And Len and I were saying together, you know, whatever we need, whether it's friendship, whether it's love, whether it's compassion, whether it's understanding, whether it's finances, whether it's help in any situation, we come to the rock that later on in the New Testament, Paul said was Jesus. He was smitten on the cross for us. And out of Jesus' life flowed this life that comes to us whenever we need him. And I find that's the way to deal with disappointment. Because yes, the children of Israel were very disappointed. They were actually disappointed in the quail. They were fed up with it. Is this what we're going to live on for 40 years? Yes, they did. 40 years they lived on quail and manna. And then they didn't have water. And, you know, perhaps it's good in this forum like this to say that life isn't heaven. We're not in heaven yet. We're not in the promised land yet. We're on a journey. And the Lord said that he led the children of Israel into the desert, into the wilderness, to test what was in their hearts.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing, because until God shows us what's in our hearts, we don't really know what's there.
Yeah. So true. So true.
We don't know that there's anxiety lurking there.
Mm,
We don't. We actually think we're pretty good Christians most of the time,
yeah.
until God leads us into the wilderness and the desert. But do you know the wonderful thing? I think it's in the Song of Solomon, I think, or is it Hosea, where he says, I will lead her gently into the wilderness and show kindness to her.
Oh, that's so true. That is so true, Heather. Even during the darkest times, God sends these little gifts, doesn't he?
Yes.
To let, I'm here. And they're maybe small things, but they're enough to just lift your spirits and keep you going.
Can I show you my little small thing?
Please.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
I know we've been talking about heavy disappointment, but let me just share what happened 5 weeks ago to me. Because as you know, we're in a pretty dark situation here in the family, and I just felt I would love a little dog. So I fell in love with a little dog on the internet. And this little dog was a cavoodle, and I fell in love with the picture, and I talked to the person selling the dog. We did all the checks and balances and everything, and we scraped up as much money as we could, and we paid $2,000, which I guess is about £1,000 in your money, for this gorgeous little cavoodle on the internet. I went out so excited to get the little bed and all of the little things that she would need, and I was so excited. On Friday night she was going to arrive, and we had the time of arrival and everything. It was all you know. And then the night before, I realized it was a scam.
Oh,
I just paid £1,000 for this beautiful little puppy that now the guy was texting me saying, because they wanted $2,500 for insurance to have the puppy brought to me, and I thought, this is a scam. Anyway, it was. So now on Thursday night I realized that this is a scam, and I'm devastated. I wasn't just disappointed, I was devastated, because I was so excited. See, an expectation. I was so excited and felt the Lord was leading us to this little puppy. So now we're told that it's a scam, and the man tells me on my text, on my phone, you are a wicked woman. You have abandoned this puppy because you're now not sending the $2,500 for the insurance to send the puppy. I'm a wicked woman and have abandoned my puppy, and not to talk to him ever again. Oh, okay, Lord. Okay, so what happens now? I've got no more money. I don't have the money to get another little dog. So I wrote a note to the Lord. Can you see? Can you see what that says? Please, Lord, fill this little puppy bed with a heart and a kiss. And I put it on the bed of my puppy that I'd bought, that she's in at the moment somewhere. Anyway, the next day, I have a phone call of a friend of mine who is so upset for me because they know what we're going through with my son, and they wanted us to have a puppy. So, unbeknownst to me, they had rung up a breeder in Brisbane and found this little puppy and said, tomorrow we're going up, and if you would like, we're going to buy you this little puppy. So I want to show you what the Lord provided. He did fill my little puppy bed with the sweetest little gift. You were saying how the Lord gives little rays of sunshine in the midst of... So I'm just going to pick her up and I'm just going to show you.
Going to see this.
oh,
Okay.
oh, look at, oh, look
Very
at,
good.
That's
My little
lovely.
Charlie.
so lovely.
Yeah.
Hello,
Brilliant.
Charlie. Oh, so beautiful.
And the next day, this little bed was filled. Charlie Bear.
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
Brilliant.
That's lovely that the Lord has brought you some joy there, Heather. We're going to finish here.
Can I
we're
say
gonna
a story before we go? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Garry?
No, I was just going to say, I just want to have a quick thing that happened to me. When I was homeless,
Yes.
when the marriage broke up,
Yes.
eventually, by default, somebody pulled out of a house in the University of St Andrews, and I got one by the sea, but nothing. And my ex-boss phoned me and says, you know loads of people, do you know anybody that wants any furniture? Because I'm selling my house there. I says, how much can I take? He says, the whole lot. So I took the whole lot. All I was needing was a fridge freezer. And the girl next door worked with the university as well, and she says, I'm leaving, do you have a freezer? I says, well, no. So she pushed the freezer through to my house. And I'm sitting at bed at night going, the worst of times and the best of times, Lord, your grace is amazing. You know, what's going on? You know, that's just incredible. The whole house just instantly. You know, that's just another story to say how, you know, the worst could be happening, but amazing.
The Lord knows. The Lord knows exactly what we need, and we just need to come to him, and he will furnish us in the most precious, unique, tender, and loving ways.
Yeah.
I think this is a great place to finish, and we'll do part 2 next week on disappointment. Thank you to my panel today, Garry, Mary, Heather, and Charlie. Thank you. God bless you.